Well, it's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. It's time to fade the deuce. I'm Ryan. That's Kevin. Hey, I like that. That's the new theme song, Kevin. What's up, man?
Yeah, you got 4 in 1 week. I missed my lock, but everybody and their mother who took any over in the NFL last weekend missed it. I think the unders were something like only 2 games the entire weekend went over.
Yeah, it was 12-2, I think.
It was nuts. Insane. Seattle and Cincinnati. 17-13. What? Like
crazy.
Nuts.
So I think you both had a good last week. Hopefully you both made some money. Kevin, how did you end up? How'd you do last week?
It was 4 in 1. Lost the Notre Dame game. Matt was on the right side of that one. I missed there. They showed out, or USC didn't show. One of the two. But it was a good week. Like I said, I missed on my lock, but I had some other picks and some other home dogs in prime time that came through for me on my own. But it was a good week. 24-20 on the year, and let's get after it again. So.
And Matt, you know what's it's like you're like the tortoise, in the hare. It's like slow and steady,
slowly but surely. I like a little consistency. I'll take a 3-2 week. It gets me to 500 for the year, 22-22 after a very slow start. So we're doing okay. Missed my lock again, so really need this week lock.
Yeah, I mean. Okay, your lock last week was it? Okay, hold on. Sorry.
Oh man,
yeah. Your lock last week was
Indiana.
Indiana. It was the margaritas, dude. I was kidding you last week, but
there you go.
There you go. Kevin, go back to that. That's where Matt wishes he was right now.
I didn't know it was bouncing around. I thought I actually had to choose it.
Yeah, the thing was, you were like on the beach, man, sipping margaritas.
I was
with your senorita.
That's right.
And you were like not worried about caring the world. You're not like, you know what? Indiana's covering.
I'm like 33.5 conference game. Too much tequila, boys. That was a rout. Wasn't even close. Michigan is off the board for the rest of the year for my locks.
All right. So you're both at least over 500. It's like a clean slate for you, Matt. It's like your real season starts now.
That's right. So now we lock in.
Now you're time to lock in. All right, Kev. So I'll let you start off. First game on the docket. We've got Minnesota at 6-1 Iowa, who looks like they might be primed and ready for. Could they go 11-1? Illinois they probably will be 9-1 if they can, take care of business before Illinois shows up to Iowa City in a few weeks. It's wild having the 133rd ranked offense, you guys, and being 6-1 because your defense is just so, tough.
And special teams.
Yeah, and special teams. Their punter had over 400 yards last week. So Kev, we'll start with you. Minnesota, who come off a thumping and a bye week, or 3-3, just kind of reeling a little bit, heading to Iowa City to play the Hawks, who have beaten them, I think, maybe 12 times in a row, something like that. And the line is 3.5.
Yeah, I believe I incorrectly said last week's Wisconsin game was the Floyd of Rosedale. Did I do that? I know this one is. This is the battle for that pig.
Yep.
Right. Here's the thing. I can't bet against Iowa right now against a team like Minnesota. I just can't do it. I don't know how Minnesota is going to move the ball effectively enough. Like, look at what happened last week. Iowa holds a good Wisconsin offense to 6 points. I mean, Minnesota's offense is not nearly as dynamic as Wisconsin's. They don't have the running backs. They don't have the quarterback. They don't have the receivers. They just don't. And going into Iowa City, I just don't see it, right? I don't see how Minnesota can keep this game within 3 points. As a matter of fact, but I don't think that Iowa's going to score much here. I literally could see this game being 10-3. The over-under on this was 32.5, and I think it's going lower.
It is, yeah.
And
what is it at now, Matt?
I think I looked. It was 31.5.
Last year's last year's game was the lowest. I think I remember it was 31, something like that last year too. So it's like these two offenses are just pitiful. So
I just cannot in good faith bet a Minnesota team to cover against Iowa on the road. And I know 3.5 points is a lot when the over-under is
it's a lot when they're going to score 13 total. Yeah.
Well, it's 13-6, 10-3. Give me something like that. The Hawkeyes are too good in the other two facets of the game to allow Minnesota to do anything. And Iowa they've got that back. They can break one. Minnesota's defense, which I thought was a lot better to start the season, has really looked shaky since the fourth quarter of the Northwestern game. Just give me the Hawkeyes here. I rode with them last week. Heck, I rode with them on the money line after the show, and it worked out for me. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes minus the 3.5 here and not be happy about it, because if you're an Illinois fan, you're kind of pulling for Minnesota here.
Yeah. You and Matt, I know, my Swami sense is tingling. I feel like you have an ALCS matchup on your mind, but I feel like, what can you, if you're able, what can you channel here? What does your mind tell you?
I am channeling everything that Kev just mentioned, because this is going to be an awful game, and I have written down final 12-9.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take the Gophers here. Probably against my better judgment, but Kev's absolutely right. And like you mentioned, 133 out of 133, Iowa's ranked offensively. Minnesota's not better. They're 119th. They haven't won in Iowa City in 24 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's tons of things going against them here.
Where's Glenn Mason when you need him?
Yeah, right. The only thing I'm leaning on here is an off week, a bye week coming off that. And they got dismantled at Michigan, in which Fleck didn't even try to score in the fourth quarter at Michigan. I think he finished the game 11 straight runs in the fourth quarter. That's all they had.
Wow.
Because I bet on them to score over a certain amount of points in the second half. And he wasn't even trying to score.
And actually, it makes that even more pitiful, Matt? That was in Minnesota. So
it was in Minnesota. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they ran the ball 11 straight times at home.
Yeah, to end the game. And if you go back and look at the play sheet, it's just ridiculous. But I chirped them online. Anyways, Iowa, 60% of their possessions this year, over 6%, end in a 3-and-out. So I'm going to take the little bit better offense here. I'm going with a gut feel. 3.5. The hook gets me here. I'm going Gophers. They lose by 3, 12-9.
Man, that's
one aspect about this. I don't even know. The Eric All, who's their receiver on the season, might be out for the year. I didn't transfer from Michigan, and so that hurts them a little bit, because then the next leading catches for 131 yards. Multiple games this year where a wide receiver hasn't caught a pass.
Yep.
Yeah, and so literally Deacon Hill has no one to throw to. I think Nico Regani's it, and then they've got one good running back who broke a big one against Wisconsin. But man, you could literally put like 9 guys in the box and feel pretty good.
39% pass completion. So yeah.
Goodness gracious. Well, let's go.
The hard part about talking about a game like this is there's nothing to talk about, right? It's just there's a good defense and a couple bad offenses. So it's just I wish we could come up with. There's nothing sexy here for us to talk about other than it is an intriguing Big Ten game for the Big Ten West implications. But
I feel like it was. I'm glad we put it on here though, because it's that bad. It's like, what is anyone going to score? I mean, it's worth to talk about because this is a tough one. That's a tough game to pick. So I don't envy you guys on that one. So we're going to move on to the SEC, a big clash with Tennessee and Alabama. So Alabama is an 8.5-point favorite here. Tennessee, has still got a lot to play for. They're still a pretty good team. Bama hasn't looked like that invincible team of late. 8.5 in Tuscaloosa is actually not too bad of a line. That shows some respect for Tennessee here. So Matt, we're going to start with you. You think the Vols can keep it under one score here, or do you think Bama's going to, win by a few scores here and cover?
Well, I just lost my under in the ALCS, so I can focus on this now. No, I'm like you just said. This is not the Bama of old. Their offense have just looked okay. They won last week, 24-21 against Arkansas team that just kind of middle of the road, mediocre.
2-5.
I just Jalen Milroe is doing the best he can. He has some explosive plays, but he's got some bonehead plays in there. Just the offense isn't what it used to be, and what they expect at Alabama. I think this is a lot of points for a very good offensive team. And Tennessee, they get credit for their offense, but their defense has been very good on the year too. They got a top 30 O-line. I think what I wrote down here, they're in coverage. They're third in the nation in coverage with their secondary. So I think Jalen Milroe is going to have some problems completing some passes during this game. And give me the better quarterback here in Milton and better offense, I think. It's going to be a tough place to play and win, obviously. I'm not going to say they're going to win outright, but 8.5, this line is already down to 7.5 now. So I'll take the 8.5 with the Tennessee Vols.
And, Kev, as we transition to your pick here, I just feel like if Tennessee's going to go in and get one this year, I feel like this is the year they can do it. Alabama's, just been so up and down, like barely squeaking by USF, barely squeaking by a 2-5 Arkansas team, getting housed by Texas at home. This just to me feels like this could be a year, in my opinion, that Tennessee might go in and be able to get one. What do you think?
Yeah, the challenge is being in Tuscaloosa, but I'm going to agree with everything that Matt said. I've got the better quarterback in this game if I'm going with Joe Milton in Tennessee, right? I've probably got the better pass defense, even though Alabama's defense is still really effectively good. I do want to say something about that game against Arkansas last week. It was like 24-6, and Arkansas got 2 touchdowns late, so there wasn't that big of a difference. But you can look at similar games. The A&M game between both teams was pretty similar, 20-13 for Tennessee, 26-20 for Bama. I just think 8.5 points is way too many. I think Alabama probably wins this game, but I'm thinking it's more like 24-20, 21-17. I really like the under in this game. It's sitting at 48.5, 49, depending on where you're looking. It getting that high, and because I do think Tennessee's defense is pretty good, and I think they're going to be able to control Milroe. Alabama's got a great defense. Tennessee does have the ability to get vertical on you pretty quickly. Milton throws a great deep ball. Not Michael Penix Jr. deep ball, but he's got an absolute hand cannon, probably the strongest arm in college football. Yeah, give me Tennessee here. It's just too many points. Like I said, I think Alabama wins, but not by much.
Yeah.
Moving on to our third matchup tonight. And this one definitely intriguing. I think it would have been a lot more intriguing if I don't know, is Elliott still out?
Riley Leonard is out.
Riley Leonard. My bad. My apologies. Is he out for the year?
They are
no,
saying
it's just out maybe 1-2 more weeks.
Man, yeah, because I would have loved to see this line.
College football. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev.
College Networks had him out today. The shows I was listening to today, the College Sports Network said he was going to be out this week. So I'm rolling with that theory.
Yeah. So I mean, that would have been really fun to see this matchup, with him being healthy. So I saw Duke's matchup play last week, and their quarterback seemed to be very read option-ish, just kind of predictable. They didn't really have to do as much last week, but Duke's defense is still very good. FSU's had some close calls a couple times this year. Probably should have lost at Clemson, and Boston College honestly had them on the ropes too. So the line is 14. It's in Tallahassee, so I can understand that. So we'll start with you, Kevin. Do you think Duke is able to, stifle them enough defensively to keep it under 2 scores?
Well, I really like the fact that on some books I can get the hook there, right? I like the 14.5 just obviously because it's better than the 14, obviously. Because I do see this is a tough game. This is one I wavered on back and forth. And I'm leaning with Duke here. I think that defense that Duke has is it's too hard for me to give them to take anybody with 14 points over them right now. I know their offense is going to have some struggles, but they flat out whooped NC State with a very pedestrian offense, and I think it's a pretty decent NC State team. I think Florida State's been prone to make some mistakes. Florida State's defense has made a lot of mistakes this year, especially in the secondary, that can allow Duke to score enough to keep this within the number. I see this game once again. I think the over/under on this is 49. I think that number is way too high. I'm probably going to lean on the under on Saturday for this one. It is in Tallahassee at night, which gives a little bit of concern there. But I think Duke's defense does enough to force Travis into some mistakes. I see this game being like 27-14 Florida State. So give me the points. It's just too many for me to give up against that Duke defense. Mike Elko's done a hell of a job there.
Yeah, he has. Definitely respectable, and they're actually seen as a legit football program now. And yeah, it comes down to the Duke D, and I believe in them. They're going to be the one stop, even though Leonard's not going to be playing. I know Duke's going to have to score some, but I'm going to rely on the Duke D. They're second in the nation in red zone defense, and that's where Florida State's offense really loves to operate. Florida State's the only one of two teams in the country in the top 20 in both red zone offense and red zone defense. And so I think that's going to be the rub here for this game. Can Duke's defense stop them in the red zone? They've shown they can do it all year with the opponents they played. 4 of their 6 games, 7 points or less. 3 games of 7 and 1 of 3. So, and most they've given up is 21 to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had to get a late touchdown to win the game to get to that 21. So, I mean, they're averaging right around that 10 to 14 points per game. I think Florida State will score here. Travis has been great. They've got momentum coming off a huge win against Syracuse. That was not a game at all, 41-3. Travis has been great, of course, but again, I agree with Kev here. Way too many points. Give me the 14.
Now we transition to a Pac-12 matchup, maybe one of the final matchups in a long, recent matchup, a bunch of good ones of late, as USC transitions to the Big 16. So Utah heads to the Coliseum. USC is a 7-point favorite. I'm not sure if their quarterback is finally healthy and available for Utah. Think about this. Remember when we talked to one of the first episodes where they're talking like, oh, he might be ready. I mean, he still hasn't played a game, has he?
No.
And
Cam Rising, yeah,
Cam Rising. And at this point, should he even waste his red shirt?
I was reading somewhere today that's what they're saying. They're going to try to redshirt him.
Yeah, because it's like not even worth it at this point. They're not winning the Pac-12, and so Matt, we're going to start with you here. USC clearly has a defensive problem.
Very
bad. Like Notre Dame doesn't have like a top 10 type offense, and they just shredded them and just made them look pathetic last week. Pretty sure they ran the ball down their throat at will.
Yep.
And Caleb Williams struggled. Was his worst outing ever.
Ever.
So in Utah's defense, known to make guys look bad, but Caleb Williams has had some really good, really, really good games against Utah. So Matt, Utah, 7-point dog. What do you have here?
Yeah, I know this kind of goes against some things here because you got a USC team that's obviously pissed off. They got embarrassed last week on national television and prime time. A lot of questions this week to Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams. Like you said, 3 interceptions, first time it's ever happened. He looked terrible. He looked lost. He didn't look ready. Notre Dame legit defense coming at him, and he just couldn't stand back there in the pocket and pick apart the defense and throw 50-yard bombs. So, and then of course their defense, like you mentioned, it was just awful. 48 points last week by Notre Dame. Utah's was 2-0 against them last year. Beat them like a drum in the Pac-12 championship game. Their USC is 4-6 against them in the last 10. I know Cam Rising's still out, probably not going to play the rest of the year. I go to the Utah D. I would usually take a pissed off team in this spot. I just think Utah's got their number in the past, and I like their defense versus a bad USC defense. So I think Utah can score enough to keep it within 7.
Kevin?
Yeah, this same thing. I went back and forth on this one, and I agree with everything that Matt said, but I'm going to take the Trojans because of the emotions of this, right? But when you look at the Trojans, their last 4 games, points allowed, 28 to a bad Arizona State team, 41 to Colorado, 41 to Arizona, 48 to Notre Dame. That defense has got to get fixed. They've got to do something there because
garbage.
Now, granted, in those games, they scored 40 points 3 times too. So, but this is a defense that's probably. I mean, they might be better. It might be a better defense than Notre Dame. And as I'm sitting here talking, I'm talking myself out of USC in the 7. But I think there's something. They're back at home. I think they're got a week of refocus. I think Caleb Williams is uber talented, and I think he's just going to go out there and make some plays. Now, granted, he got banged up in the Big 12 championship game last year, and that's one of the reasons why I think Utah ended up winning that game. But give me the Trojans -7. I love to play off the emotions of college football. Same reason I like home dogs at primetime games. You guys know that. So give me the Trojans here.
Speaking of that, Kevin, we have not had one in a few weeks. We need to start picking some home dogs in prime time. I've missed talking about that. So I'm glad you ended up bringing it up, but we don't have one this week. So, we got to get back.
Oh, we do.
That.
I do. I do. The locks are coming.
Hold on, Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. All right. So
the locks, multiple plural, are coming.
Oh, okay.
All right. Shoot. So the last game on the docket, interesting, will be: is this the year Penn State can break through? And this seems to be it's kind of like the Tennessee Bama game, in my opinion. Is that it's Ohio State's been good, but as we've seen, struggled mightily against a good but not great Notre Dame team, and then has not really been as dominant as we're used to seeing. So and Penn State to me has just looked like, behind Michigan, to me, they've looked like the best team behind Michigan, in my opinion, in the Big Ten. So Drew Aller, I think he's got some of those. He struggled at Illinois for quite a bit, and he didn't look great at Northwestern. So he's going to be leaving, going to the Horseshoe, Ohio State. So it looks like they're a 4.5-point favorite at home. Kevin, starting with you, what do you see happening here? Does Penn State break through?
I think you're going to. I think the wrong team's favored. I'm looking at this, and I think Penn State has the better overall team defense. I think Penn State has the better offense. Grand Columbus. I think the fact we're playing, it's a noon kickoff there, noon Eastern, instead of a night game, is going to help. Don't get me wrong. The shoe's going to be loud. It's going to be electric. I think Drew Aller has shown enough with this team that they can win. I also think that what their schedule is set up for recently, they're a little more fresh. They just beat a really bad UMass team and beat them like a drum. Penn State has something like 14 consecutive games scoring 30 points. It's really impressive, including scoring 31 against Ohio State last year. Granted, they got some scores late. That was the game that 44, Tuiasosopo or whatever his name, and he basically took over that game. It was one of the best games I've ever seen a defender play. But I really like James Franklin's bunch here. I think they're the second best team in the Big Ten. I think they're a legit top 5 team. Ohio State has not. Granted, they've won some games. They beat a game Notre Dame team, and they held off Maryland, but that game was close. Nothing Ohio State's doing right now is really impressing me, and I think that Penn State has the physicality and the depth in the secondary and the size in the secondary to give them some problems. I mean, who's starting it? I mean, is there rumblings that between Brown and McCord, who's going to play quarterback this week? Like, I'm all over Penn State in this one. As a matter of fact, I might dabble on the money line. I think Penn State covers. I think Penn State wins. I think this is a game like 24-20 Penn State.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, and I went back and forth on this one too. I'm taking Ohio State simply because of them being at home, basically, and just a feel for it. I mean, Kev's right in his analysis here. I think this is both of these teams are 1-2 and yards per play allowed. Both very good defenses. I think this will be and this game in the past would be a shootout kind of game. This game is not going to be that way. This is going to be 20 23-17. I'm only saying that because I'm taking Ohio State the 3.5. But I don't see this getting really over much, 40, 41, 42 points total here. So an under would be something to look at here. I think it's at 47 right now. But this for me, I think both teams are pretty, equally distributed. I'm just going with Ohio State at home. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. It's just what I'm feeling. And that's my analysis. It's shitty analysis, but that's where I'm at.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah, right.
So now we go to the most anticipated moment of the episode. It's the locks of the week, and we need some music for it.
I don't have it.
Yeah, I know. I like the money start to the show. That actually might be our theme music from now on. I like that.
I do like that.
Yeah, that's good. So I know what is your lock total? So I'm going to give your total for the year, but what's your locks, Matt? Where are you at?
I am 2 games under 500. I don't know how many we've done.
So this will be,
was this episode 9?
This is week 9. So then that would mean you're what
3 and 5.
3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Okay,
yep.
So you're first here with your lock this week. And overall, Matt is 22 and 22. So he's exactly where, many of us would like to be after. Well, we'd be okay with that after 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So 22 and 22 overall, 3 and 5 on your locks. All right, Matt. So after last week's, you owe us a good one.
I do owe you.
Go ahead. I don't care if it's the easiest, even something my son would pick. Let's go for it.
We're going to go to Provo, Utah. Okay. Late night football where the BYU Cougars are getting the Texas Tech Red Raiders, a place at altitude where the Red Raiders have, I don't think, ever played. I don't think they're going to be ready. Provo, Utah at that time of night is a different animal. Shout out to the Mormons out there partying.
Juiced up on Dr. Pepper, ready to go.
That's right.
Is this a home dog in prime time? Okay.
Yes, it is.
This is a home dog in prime time. I just feel like, Texas Tech's not going to know what hit them here. I would sprinkle a little BYU juice money line here. They got embarrassed last week at TCU, I think 44-11. And here's the thing. Since 2019, not counting this year so far, but BYU's 30-11 at home. And I didn't factor in the home games this year yet, but 30-11 at home. 10 of those 11 losses were before 6 p.m. Provo, Utah time. This is after 6 p.m.
You don't want no business out late in Provo.
Exactly. So you're taking 30-1 after 6 p.m. Give me the Cougs plus 4.5 against the Red Raiders.
All right. So you guys heard it from his lips to your bank account. So
that's
right. All right, Kev. What are you on your locks?
I'm 5-3. Missed last week. Took the Bears, Vikings over 44.5. Anybody who took
I took
the under.
And I'm gonna throw Kev a bone here. It really should be 6-2. I thought the Ryder Cup one was just pure hope. It really wasn't much in my opinion, where you were like you believed it.
I didn't really. If I was actually going to put money on it, and I would never do it, I would have bet the Euro team. Man, you don't bet against the Euros in Europe.
All right, so Kevin's 24 and 20, 5-3. So if you guys have been putting your money with Kev, you guys have made some money. We know this. So, Kevin, to get to 6-3 on your locks, what do you got for us?
So it's funny is that in preparation for the show, Matt sent in his lock ahead of me, and that he took my lock. Right, I love that bet. Matt, I hated your bet last week, and I told you that I hated that lock.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not saying I'm the end all be all, because Lord knows I've had my losses there, and obviously you faded me on my lock, and it worked out well for you. This one I'm sticking with the same kind of theme here, right? And I've talked about it a little bit on the show. Obviously, like I should get a hat that says HDIPT, Home Dogs in Prime Time. But
get the merch.
There we go.
Home Dogs in Prime Time on odd nights. I get Marshall, the Thundering Herd, getting 4.5. It might be 3.5, 4. I don't care, against JMU. All right, JMU has moved into the rankings. What did they move in the rankings on? Because they beat a really bad Virginia team by 1 point, an awful Virginia team. I mean, a Virginia team who I'm not sure would be favored if they played Northwestern. They're that bad. They're that bad. They're Boston College bad. I mean, this is the worst Power 5 team probably in America. And JMU's hanging their hat on that. They're into the rankings, and you're going to go into West Virginia. Marshall has these, like, those West Virginia folks are nuts. They are not going to be all liquored up on Dr. Pepper. They're going to be liquored up on Jim Beam. That place is going to be loud.
What about moonshine?
Moonshine, yeah. That place is going to be loud. It's going to be intense. Give me the Thundering Herd. I think they win outright, but I'm going to take the points to the bank on that one. Give me Marshall. I think I saw it at 4.5. It might be 3.5. It's moving. By the way, the BYU line I see has moved down to 3.
I'll take that. Okay.
So I mean, we'd rather have the 4.5, obviously, Matt. But it's obviously there's people who are agreeing with our thought process there. It's 3. I see it at 3.5 now. I don't care. I think Marshall wins the game. I'll probably get seduced by the juice. Actually, sorry, it's not Friday night. It's tomorrow night. But still, doesn't matter. The students are going to be nuts. The place is going to be wild. Give me Marshall on that one.
So briefly here, we got a couple minutes. So Illinois went in and surprised Maryland. Like, who? I gotta tell you, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. And so this week, homecoming, Wisconsin's coming to Champaign. It was 4? Was it 3.5? 4? What's the line?
It's 2.5.
It's dropped. So people are putting money on Illinois. Then the money's where Illinois is. And I know you guys look to see where the Sharks are putting their money. To you, that's kind of a big one.
Let me.
Yeah. So the public bet, according to CBS Sports, is on Wisconsin right now. 66% of the public's on Wisconsin, but the line moved from -4 to -2.5. That tells me that their sharps are on Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So really, that they think it's going to be like maybe closer to a point, like a late field goal, something like that. So that looks, I'm thinking there's a lot at play here too. I wonder if Tanner Mordecai was playing, if the line would be up more to like.
Oh, for sure, it'd probably be from the
absolutely
5.5, 6. Yeah. So that's going to play into Illinois' favor. And with Malusi out as well, Illinois riding high, some confidence going on. I know we already made our picks. We made our pick on it on Sunday. Matt, do you think Illinois covers the 2.5?
I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid this week, and I think they do. I mean, I just because they're feeling good. They're coming off a great win at Maryland, and Wisconsin comes in here totally banged up, as you just mentioned. You got a guy starting on the road for the first time here. I think this is where Illini defense is feeling good and makes it really hard for Wisconsin. I'll take them.
Yeah.
And I was just looking here. The big money bets, bet percentage, Wisconsin 89% to 11% Illinois, but where the money is going, sharp action, 64% to Illinois, only 36 to Wisconsin. That's a 53% difference for Illinois right there, which is outstanding if you're following sharp money.
Wow. I mean, the fact that they give that, like, that's a
well, I pay for that, but yeah.
Okay. I was about to say, because I'm like, man, if everybody had that access, like, people would just follow that, like that.
Understandably so, but there's that those numbers are what they have at their disposal to share, but
Exactly.
but understand that there's that's coming through one book or one, it might be just through action or wherever you're getting it. Like I was talking to a good buddy of mine, he actually runs book. He was telling me, like, dude, Vegas isn't giving out those numbers willy-nilly. So it is something to pay attention to, but I'm not saying that's the Holy Bible or the Holy Grail, right?
Yes.
BetMGM doesn't want those numbers out. So like, William Hill doesn't want those numbers out.
Any before we say bye, any fun NFL lines to look at for the weekend?
I didn't really look at NFL lines. I'm still kind of enamored with this college slate here because there's some things that I like at it. One thing to be like, Air Force and Navy, 10.5 point spread. Navy's getting 10.5 at home against Air Force in a total that's 34.5. And Air Force is without their quarterback, Zach Larrier. He's their leading passer and their second leading rusher, right? He's been extremely efficient passing, but they don't pass much. And then he's also rushed for 400 yards, and he's out. I like that. There's something about the service academies when they play each other. Air Force is like leading the nation in rushing, but when they play each other, they're used to the systems that the other teams are running. I think Navy keeps that within the number. If somebody wants to have a little bit of fun with that, is one of the lines that I've been looking at this week.
Just off the top of my head, I'm looking. I like the Saints at home -1 against a Jags team that might have non-Trevor Lawrence.
No Zay Jones either.
And you might be able to get them right now at -1. And then the second one I like is Tampa Bay back at home, coming off a tough loss last week. They're under a field goal favorite versus the Falcons, who do not play well on the road.
I've got the Cowboys covering the bye week, so I got that one. They definitely needed that, man. What a big win on Monday night for my boys. So Dak needed that. And anything with is it Tangent, the Bears' new quarterback? What's his last name?
Badgett.
Okay.
Badgett, Tyler Badgett.
Yeah.
T-bag.
Everybody's going to be wearing his jersey here in a few weeks, so
there we go.
Bear down.
Who's Vegas's backup? Because those might be the two starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well,
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, that's right.
Aiden O'Connell and Tyler Badgett.
45-year-old Brian Hoyer stepped in last week and played.
That's right. Aiden O'Connell, I think, might be hurt. It might be Brian Hoyer and Badgett for the Bears. So
yeah,
that over-under's at 37.5. Give me the under if those guys play.
I don't know that O'Connell's hurt. I feel like more like that. It sounded like McDaniels just didn't trust him because he took so many sacks against the Chargers. He took 6 sacks. It was like his pocket. Yeah, his pocket presence just isn't there yet. Like, and McDaniels, has that confidence with him from all those years in New England. Right. So he trusts him to get rid of the ball, all that fun stuff. And who would imagine Christian McCaffrey hurt again, even though he might play? It sounds like he is, I guess. But more importantly, Jimmy Garoppolo hurt again. It's like same story every year. That's why I'll never draft him. I don't draft McCaffrey. I don't draft Barkley. Not happening. So, with that said, anything else, fellas, before we hit the road?
I think we're good. Let's have a good week.
Yeah, let's get her done. Swami out.
ILL.
I.